Okay, so I've got this one. So I'm gonna just show you everything that's on here. You can see it. You can hear my daughter, she's in here.
Oh, Doctor the Patient.
Doctor the Patient. You've got Mummy's crutches there, haven't you? Right. So obviously on here we've got loads of gold corner BGAs. You've got flat packs. You've got tanties. You've got things that look like tanties but aren't tanties. Transformer modules. Other ICs. And these different jacks. And then on the board, another nice load of black.
Why are you COVID to hospital?
Another load of black and yellow tanties and gold band crystal oscillators. So off of this little board, I'm going to show you, I'm going to depopulate it, and then I'm going to show you what we got. Okay, so hey curious people, you've just been seeing a time lapse of me depopulating a high grade board by hand. Now the reason I do this is that I have nowhere here that I can totally sell my boards to for the appropriate level of value. My local yard will only take them by the ton. That's no good for me, at a one flat rate. There are places in the UK you can ship to, but I nab so many different bits and pieces that it's not really worth it for me to then sell on the board. You know, I want the components for my creations, and I want bits of copper and the aluminium and the brass for future casting and all that kind of thing. So that doesn't work for me. So what I actually do, and the purpose of this video, is to basically show you how I make the maximum kind of value for the boards by totally depopulating. Now, I do this in a number of ways. Today I'm just doing it by hand. I use a heat gun sometimes. That works well, and I may do a different video showing you the heat gun method. And I have been known to air hammer, but I don't have my own compressor. So I've got my own tools, but I'm currently compressorless, so I can't currently use an air hammer. Some people don't like it because of the kind of crumble you get. I don't necessarily mind that because I don't mind sorting stuff out, but sometimes when you do it by hand you kind of take longer to do it, but then there's less sorting afterwards, so it's kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. And then what I do is I separate the components, and the bits that I'm not going to keep I then sell in bundles. Now the most lucrative thing that I sell are bundles of gold corner PGAs. They sell really well, and they go from anything, I sell them per kilo, and they go from anything between sort of 70 to kind of £120 a kilo. It can be really good, and you know, that's what I like to do. So so this one I just obviously did on a time lapse just to show you, you know, the complete depopulation method. There's a couple of things still left on here. The diodes I don't really worry about, and there's tiny MLCCs. Now if I was using an air hammer or heat gun I could get those off. And some of the sort of transistors are a bit more tricky to get off by hand, so the chisel method doesn't really work for these. These kind of tiny side snips is better, and the reason I still get these off is that there is a little sheet of copper in these, just like in a MOSFET. Just want to do it so I could possibly show you. You see the copper in there? So if they're stubborn, then I'll heat gun those. So I weighed it at the beginning. It was 0.65 of a kilogram, the board with everything on it. I'll now show you the board depopulated. Just move all these bits out of the way for you. So wait. So 0.25 of a kilogram without everything on there. So we've lost 0.45. This, you can sell gold flash boards just as a depopulated board for other people who want to try to recover, you know, the bits. Or I can sell the boards to the scrapyard. So there's two options there. So I've made a bit of a mess, I always do. So to show you what I got off of that one board, these are the goodies. So over here you've got all the jacks, all the ports. These ones I took off because they're all brass, so that will just need some further depopulation. These are all brass casings, so well, that one isn't. These ones. So the sides, the actual connecting bits, there's some steel in there that needs separating. Okay, all brass. So oh, I made a mistake with these ones. So these ones are not, so they could have stayed on the board. So they can go into shred with the board, or gold flash boards if you're going to sell them separately. So what else did we get off that board? So you can see here we've got a pile of tanties, black and yellow tanties, a few ICs thrown in for good measure. They are what kind of pinged off And then this is the box of wonder. So I've got a nice chunk of brass here. You know it's brass. If you're not sure, obviously you can do the old file method. I haven't got my gloves on, it's darn sharp. File away, see the yellow tinge inside, you know it's brass. So a nice bit of brass. Then we've got all these gold corner BGAs. Look at them. So many. And these are the payday, guys. That one's lost its cap. You see? This is all off of that one board. There's the cap tip. There's another one lost its cap. That's the cap for that. Okay, so a nice handful there of gold corner BGAs. So nice thing of gold corner BGAs. Then we've got some flat packs. These also need sorting separately. I just put it into this bowl because I wanted to, you know, this tub, because I wanted to show you what we got. These transformer modules, they look like ICs, but they're not, and you'll always kind of get them behind the jacks and the ports, you know, on a board. Dead giveaway. And they've got copper toroids inside. Okay, so they would go into my copper recovery items. Flat packs. So flat packs are the ones that have got the legs on all four sides. Unlike an IC that has it on two, and unlike a BGA, there must be some BGAs in here. No, alright, I'll show you one of these ones. Unlike a BGA that is legless. And it's just on the board like that. See the difference? They're very similar, but the difference is the legs there. And then obviously a load of ICs, so I'll separate the ICs to the flat packs. Normally I don't chuck them in one pot, but I wanted to show you. Normally I chuck them into these different jars. And then we come round to popping the bits in the drawers. So I've put MOSFETs and other transistors in here because they all contain copper. If I can find an example, obviously these are all MOSFETs. Here we go. Okay, so this has got 4 legs, but it does have a sheet of copper. So I process it the same, so they go in together. So there's you can see the copper in there. Crystals, so there's ICs. You know, they add up really quickly. This is just a few boards working here. You know. Oh yeah, and the flat packs I'm going to put in there. So tanties, I'll put black and yellow in together. It doesn't bother me. I sell them all together, so I don't need to keep those separate. And the other sort of capacitors I keep them all. Some of them I'm not sure if they're the old tanties, and also these are good for creation, so I keep them anyway, and then just try and work out what they are. And then of course the really wonderful things are, I've got quite a selection in here of the gold band crystal oscillators. So they're totally in disguise. There's one upside down. There's several in here. There we go. And it was quite incredible how many of these I just got off of that one telecoms board, actually. I wasn't counting. Oh, damn. I wasn't counting. There's at least one more, and there's at least one that flew off somewhere that I'll find, goodness knows when, you know, at a later date. Okay, well there's one more in here somewhere. So look at all these beautiful gold band crystal oscillators. Now I don't keep stuff to do gold recovery myself. I keep it to sell in bundles. I haven't actually sold a bundle of these, so I'd have to do a little bit of market research to see what they're going as, but they have a good gold recovery yield on those, so I reckon if the BGAs is anything to go by, these will go really nicely. So that kind of gives you an idea of how you can maximise your money on the boards by doing a kind of total depopulation. Now I know this looks messy, it's a lot less messy than doing it with the air hammer, and the heat gun is less messy because you can kind of get off with one of these, all of the little tiny MLCCs and things. MLCCs are great for palladium recovery, and again you can sell these in bundles. I'm just trying to think, can't remember the going rate on these per kilogram actually, but it's for the palladium recovery. Palladium is very high. Palladium is actually worth more than gold. I think it's a little bit more difficult to actually extract the palladium out of these though, but it can be done. So you get different colours of the MLCCs. You get these light browns and the dark browns. They're all MLCCs. If it's marked C, you know it's capacitor and you know it's an MLCC. It stands for multi-layer ceramic capacitor. And there's sort of crumble in there as well, where sometimes they don't quite come off the board. I take the M&Ms. I get more of these on the lower grade boards. But there is potentially some silver recovery in these. I take the capacitors for creations, but also they can go into irony alley instead of just, you know, going into a shred on the board. You know, it all does massively add up. So this is what I'm doing. I'll go through another couple of boards with you and just kind of show you what's what and what I'm looking at, and then, you know, what that turns into. Okay, so let's just weigh up what we got out of that one board. So, firstly, these are the canties on the board. So, we'll just zero the pot. A whopping 8 grams. So, 8 grams of tanties. But that's only off of one board though. Now we've got the flat packs, and 20 grams there, 20 grams, that's not too bad. And then I'm not even, they probably won't even register, they're the 2 MLCCs. No, I'm not even going to register as a gram. And then we've got all these ICs. 16 grams. Don't actually need to take the pot off because it's got the measurements of the pot. So then all these gold corner BGAs, 29 grams. Gold corner BGAs. Nice. That's just miscellaneous copper bearing bits, 26 grams. Bit of brass, 5 grams. Oh no, wait, that needs to go. Bit of brass. How's that? Zero that off. 11 grams of brass. And then, so these are just non. So then these are all the connections that have got brass. 111 grams. Obviously there's some other bits in there as well that are no good. Then we've got all of these gold band crystal oscillators. Here, just zero that off. It's a whopping 3 grams, but very popular they are. And we've got some different types. Oh, I don't know that one got in there. Some different types of capacitors. And some gold pins. So there we go. Now, while I'm here, so what I'll do is I'll then decant out of those pots and put them, you know, in with the other stuff. But I did actually get some mail this week. So, let me just show you what mail I got. So, I got this from my Amazon wish list, and it's amazing. I've used it loads already, so it's not still in its packaging because I've used it several times, and I am really, really grateful for it. Is this, and I got this from Womble Creatives. I'm so grateful, honestly. It's a really, really generous thing off my wish list. When I made a wish list, I never dreamed that you know, a subscriber would get me such an expensive item off it, to be honest, because it's my list that I've got for friends, family, and it's public, so it's the same list, not for everybody. Oh look, I've got my next thing on there already, but it's this wonderful sack barrow, and yeah, it's brilliant, and it folds down really small, which is really, really handy. So I'm going to just show you. Oh, my needle. This bit folds up like so, and then you drop down the. Look at that! How nifty is this? It's brilliant. So it's awesome. Long gone are the days of me borrowing the one that came from my granddad's old garage off my mum and dad, which has seen better days, I can tell you. So that's awesome. So thank you so much, Womble Creatives. Paul, I really, genuinely, really appreciate that. I think it's a really kind thing of you to do, and I'm really touched. So thank you so much. And you can see on the card here the dimensions, and it's got really nice anti-vibration wheels, and they are smooth, really, really smooth. So nice German bit of engineering there. It's wonderful. So thank you so much, and it's going to come in really handy. Now I've got my first contract pickup. So yeah, awesome. Thank you. Okay, so I just go through a few of the basics with you on how I depopulate my board in a bit more detail, and what tools I use. So for me, the typical kit needed to depopulate boards for me, magnet obviously, because I like to see with the casings which ones like this are brass and which ones like this are steel. So that's gadget number one. So long nose pliers, really helpful, much better at getting into places than ordinary pliers. A file for testing the bits and pieces like this, for example, to see whether it's brass or aluminium. In most cases brass. So snips, and then these dainty model making side cutter snips are really useful for, especially for getting off the gold fingers and pins, and just getting into cutting the corner of things that you need to dink up. Really, really helpful. Tweezers to pick up the intricate bits. The bigger adjustables to get off some of the bigger, heavier bits. I do also use this spatula, and then my chisel for knocking things off, complete with hammer. So obviously I do use methods such as heat gun and air hammer. That's very different to doing it by hand. Now, by hand, I've seen lots of people show, you know, using cutters or a knife to scrape down one side. But to be honest, I find that I don't really need to do that because the chisel does it for me. So, my daughter doesn't like being asked to be quiet. So basically, I just get the chisel up against the edge. Move it away from the glass. Up against the edge. Little tap, and it's off. You know, nice and quick. It really is as simple as that. Now, there we go. We've got 3 ICs off in no time. It really doesn't take long to depopulate a board this way. It's the same with the more delicate bits, like the gold band crystal oscillators, for example. They ping off everywhere, but you can either do it with the chisel in the same way, just smaller, more gentler taps. That one's a fail. So that's done what is really annoying and broken, which is just a typical when I'm doing an example. So I just want to get me little tweezers and pick it up. So that's just the cap of it. So we put that in the jar, but what we actually need is this bit here. So we'll continue. Yeah, this one's being stubborn. So then I'll get the side cutters, the small ones, snip round the corners of these. And then give it another go. There we go. And there's the main bit. So then that goes in the jar. It's quite a nice close-up actually. Let's see. The GoPro's not great at focusing in.
Oh.
But anyway, that's the bit we want into the jar. So, example, some more ICs here. So, nice and quick. Tap, 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 tap. They're off already. 1, 2, 3 into ICs. So let's try again with this gold band here. It's best if you can go in from a corner because it just gives it more of a direct entry. And if you can, putting a little finger over it is handy for the fact they love to fly off. The only annoying thing is you can't see. But there we go. There we have it. And it's nice and intact. So into the jar it goes. So that's just my method. I just find it a lot quicker. I'm waiting for my nice heavy V block from Ian Matthews. You can use an ordinary brick, to be honest. They're on the patio. I used to do it on the patio table. So, you know, you don't really need to cut along the edge. You've got a nice sharp chisel, it will do it for you. Tap, tap, tap. Tap, tap, tap. Done. Then all the big ICs are already off this board. And when you get into the zone, like, it's actually really easy to, it's amazing how much you can get done. So now we've got some MLCCs. Now, you can do it this way, I'll show you. But obviously they're a bit smaller and they do disappear quickly. So I've done them that way, or if you want to do it slower, nice big ones like this are nice and easy to just she says pick off with your long nose pliers and pop into the jar. So you can do it whichever way you like. These ones are actually quite on here, I have to say, but you know, you do get them. So my method for this board would stay at the chisel because it's just a little dink and they're off. Okay, and again another gold. Okay, sorry about that. My daughter's it's school holidays, so she's very mummy centric. Can't remember what I was saying, but yeah, another little. Some of these are stubborn on this board, I tell you. Obviously, here it comes. I think that's lifted away. There we go. Oh, done it again, just the cap. So we still need the base. There's an MLCC there. So it looks like on this board the best method is to just snip the corner. Which I'll show you. There we go. I wasn't holding it, so of course it flew over here, but we got it. So I'll show you on one of them the sensible method. So just getting under and snipping that corner there does help to just pry it up. Okay, so let's compare. Oh dear. Yeah, this is Ching! Yeah, that one went behind there. I know roughly where it is. Okay, and then your black tanties. Pick those off with your long nose pliers, in with the tanties. You know, if it's marked C, you know it's a tanty. See, these MLCCs came off a bit easier. Sometimes you can do two at a time, like so. Okay, so you can see how it would actually get to the stage that depopulating this in this way. Let's go for 3, shall we? Oh yeah, she did it. She did it. She did it. It doesn't take that long, you know. You can take as much or as little time as you like, really. And of course, if you're wanting to do a certain bundle, you can go through and just get off the individual components that you want, cherry pick. The only problem with that is that you're left with the boards for longer. You know, I build them up and then try to fully depopulate because it just gets the boards out of the way. You know, boards do add up pretty quickly. So there's another line of 3 MLCCs into the jar. In fact, they're all in 3, is it? Oh, I'm loving this. Ooh, yeah. She got it good. Ooh, yes, indeed. So, 3. Pachoing. Gotcha. Okay. Be a case of just continuing around the board. So, what I would leave on for the shred or eye in the alley, whatever your yard is going to take them as, unless of course you're selling a depopulated gold flash board as a depopulated gold flash board, you can leave on the bits that don't have any value. So like the little diodes, these high, or the little fuse, for example, there's a little fuse. I do keep most fuses for silver recovery. I don't always take these little tiny ones though, but you know, you can, but they're awkward. So I've still got more MLCCs to take off. So over to this side. Oh, look at that MLCC. Oh my gosh, that is the stuff of dreams. Look at that. That is massive. Yes. So some people say, oh, I can't really tell the difference between, you know, how do you spot an MLCC? So they've got the 2 silver coloured ends and they're always a shade of brown. So it's either this darker brown or like these ones here are a kind of lighter brown colour. So you've got a darker brown and a lighter brown colour, but they're both MLCCs. Obviously I take off all the copper bearing goodies. This is what I'd normally use the bigger pliers for, but as these are in my hand, I'll show you. And then you've got a nice spool of copper there. You know, it adds up. The capacitors I use for creations. If not, they can go into eye in the alley. So if your boards are going off to shred, take these for separate eye in the alley. You get more, obviously. Shred is like bare bottom prices.
Mum, where's teachers having dinner?
Yes, they're having their dinner. So transistors I take off because most transistors have a nice bit of copper inside. This style, you know, like the MOSFET style shape. But yeah, the little diodes that look like tanties and the ones that look a bit like MLCCs, they're what I would leave on these boards. can't recover anything from those. Crystals, go off into crystals, oscillators. Yeah, and obviously a gold pin bearing, and there's some nice gold pins in here, look. So let me get this one, give it a twist. There we go. Look at those gold pins that's just released. Very nice. It's only the ends again. On most of these boards, the gold pins are not gold all the way through. It's just, you know, on the end. Oh, that's okay. It adds up. But you want it all, you know, there's value there for your own gold recovery or selling it to someone else for refining and gold recovery. So then I'm just gonna pull off the ones that are attached and then tip the board into the gold pin. Okay, so then yeah, you can whiz through. Once you've become accustomed to it, it doesn't take long to depopulate a board. You can get the components off pretty easily. So pretty much in one fell swoop. Now some of the old capacitors can be worth, you know, a few pounds each, like the old green ones. If you're removing bits to be reused rather than to be used for precious metal recovery, the best way is to desolder so that the components come out nice and neatly and ready to actually, you know, fully intact to be used again. That's not what how I depopulate, unless it's something pretty spectacular. You know, desoldering is actually quite therapeutic, I have to say. But there's no need to go to the trouble of desoldering when you're doing things like this. But if there is a component that you want to use, then what you need to do is desolder that to get it out intact with no damage, and then it's still a useful component. And you know, that's awesome recycling, isn't it? Okay, so this is just basically giving the idea of what I do with the higher grade boards. So this is sort of like out of office telecom equipment boards. So like these are possibly going to become a bit more readily available as the world moves over to Zooming and video conferencing that way. You know, that sort of thing never used to be an option, and you used to have these wonderful gadgets to do it. Well, you no longer need those wonderful gadgets. You can do it on your ordinary computers and tablets these days. So, you know, things are changing on that front. So more copper bearing bits. Just chuck into the copper bearing. Okay, oh look, we've got a tiny gold corner BGA here. So, hopefully I've shown you what you can do to kind of increase the value if you don't have a board buyer. So here we've got like a little, I don't know what this was, I think some sort of viewing box. I think so because of the little slot card here. So you've got these chips here. Typically, apparently they don't have the best recovery. Obviously we'll still remove it. But I don't sell those in bundles. I don't know what I'm going to do with those, to be honest. But on here, obviously, we've got sort of some more of the M&Ms. Now then, these are not all capacitors. Some of them are resistors, and they are, and so are they. It's like here with this one. That's a varistor. Okay, so it's not capacitor or resistor. It's a varistor. It came off, I didn't mean it to, because we really don't want that. Here's an example of a diode that looks a bit like a black tanty, but it's not. The markings on the top are slightly different, and obviously it's got the code D instead of C. So they are similar. But try to not confuse them. So you see, that's a black tanty. This is a big one, so it's not a very good example actually, because it's quite obviously a tanty, this one, but you can see, like, shape wise and stuff, pretty similar. But that's the tanty, that's a diode. If it's not marked C, it's not a tanty, black tanty. Okay, so on here, quite a few copper bearing items, which are lovely. So you just come and whip those off, chuck them in your copper recovery pot. You know, weigh up the difference in price for copper and shred. You're doing hundreds of boards. This all adds up. So, you know, you want it. Well, I want it. Capacitors. For creations. The really big ones, so these little ones are for creations for me. I'd say probably even bigger than this, but the much bigger ones you can actually strip out yourself. Ian Matthews has done a video on stripping out aluminium capacitors. Be warned, obviously there is a chemical makeup to these. You unwrap them. It's unusual you come across a wet one, but just make sure you're wearing your protective gear if you're stripping things like this down. It's the same with all of this. You know, any electrical board, there are chemicals involved. You've got to take your safety seriously. I can't stress that enough. And okay, so we've got a bigger transformer. Obvious copper recovery there. Just pull that off the board, chuck that in, and you can see this is what, 2 boards in. It adds up, the copper recovery, and then you can sit watching live streams or TV or whatever it is you want to do and recover this stuff. So here we've got, I've broken it, typical, probably because I'm using these big ones. Okay, so similar principle to the MOSFETs, these have got, can you see that? Bar of copper in. So I chuck them in with MOSFETs. So those I would put in there with the MOSFETs. You can see how quickly the ICs add up. So, you know, and this is all sellable stuff on eBay or Facebook. You'll be amazed, there's people everywhere that want these things. Okay, so it's just nice and quick to whip off the different components. Okay, and then again, BGAs. I've got no legs around the outside, you know these are BGAs. There's copper in these transistors as well. That's not an IC, it's a transformer module. It's bigger, it's thicker, it's right next to a port. That's how you can tell. And you've got your copper toroids inside. The bigger, the easier. Okay, all this copper, look at it, look at that. Beautiful. You know, it adds up. So we've got some more beautiful little M&Ms. Use whichever, the little tiny cutters or the big ones, it's up to you, but you know, whichever's going to make it easiest. Now don't think the dark ones are going to be the ones that are not the capacitors. That's not how it goes, because that they are. Get that out of the way to get this one. Okay. Awesome. So hopefully in this video I've just given you an idea of what to do if you've got no way of easily selling your boards as whole boards. These have got a nice spool of copper inside. Hopefully you can see that. go. Okay, look at that. It's pretty nice thick copper in there. Into the copper recovery bucket. These normally just come off by hand, to be honest, because they've got that kind of easy weight to them. Okay, and then it'll be back to taking your ports that have got the gold recovery, basically like your RJ45s, Ethernet, USB, some SCARTs. The yield is low though, but I'll just show you. It depends. Are you someone taking it all, or are you selling it? You know, if you're selling it, you could sell the ports themselves. No joy. Okay, so that one's basically shred, useless. Okay, but it's always worth a look. And not to forget, you know, your brass that you get. It all adds up, guys. And it does, you know, and if you're spending your time doing that, then you're going to maximise, aren't you, in what you get. Shred. Okay, so I know that was a bit higgledy-piggledy and all over the place. That is my life. Welcome. And my daughter's been here. You know, you've heard her. She's been making some nice noise. Yeah, that's, as I say, that's my life. No pretense here, my lovely people. So I have got some rather exciting news. My latest palette has arrived, so next week's video will be the palette reveal. What did I get? And also, since I've got myself licensed, I've got the licenses I need to kind of, this is still a hobby for me, but I wanted to not be restricted in what I could do. So I got myself the licenses I required so that I could pick up from businesses and advertise to pick up and do collections from businesses. And I've already got my first contract, which I'm really excited about, and it's a school. So at some point, hopefully this week, I'm going to be going and doing my first pickup. I mean, it's a school pickup, so I'm going to take you along. I will just sort of air to see, you know, this is my first time with these as clients, so obviously I'm not going to rock up with the camera on. I'll be a bit more professional than that, and I'll you know, once I've kind of tested the water and stuff, I'll film. Like instead of me going in the building, I mean, this is fab for me, is that it will be put on a pallet and it will be left for me to collect, so I should be able to actually get my vehicle right up and just take it all. It'll you know, it won't be wrapped or anything. They're just gonna use some of the machinery to bring it out to a decent location for me to collect it at ease. So, you know, if I can't see any reason why I shouldn't be able to film then. There's no school on at the moment, so it's holiday time. As long as I can do it this week, it'd be like, if it's next week, it might be a bit more tricky to film, but it's supposed to be hopefully by the end of this week. So yeah, how exciting. I've got my first contract already, so you know, that fills me full of joy. But now I have the logistics of the paperwork. But that's fine. I like to be quite organised with these things, so I'm gonna have it, you know, really, really well organised and document everything, and just have it so that I've got all this record for my books and all that kind of thing. So although it is a hobby, you know, down the line I would quite like it to become almost like a part-time job, but you know, I know it's really difficult, but I do want to take it further than just me pottering in the shed. I do want to be able to do these bigger pickups, and you know, if I can sort a bigger building, you know, where the caravan is, kind of allows for that. So you know, I I do want to kind of do that alongside my other job. That's really good, you know. So yeah, how exciting, my first contract, woohoo. And you know, my actual licenses only came through the post today, although I got them a few weeks ago. I did actually receive the physical licenses today, so that was quite exciting. Yeah, so there we go, that's my big news. So next week's video will be a palette unveiling reveal. Coming up, I'll do some lower grade board depopulating. You know, people have been asking me for a while, but you can see I've only I've done 3 boards, and boy does it mount up quickly. It really does. You get so many components in so little time. That is another transformer module. There's the code. Yeah, in there. So there we go. Okay guys, right, thank you so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. I know it's been a bit higgledy-piggledy, a bit noisy for my door. What can I say? Such is life. But hopefully it gives you a bit of an idea of how I make my money on my boards, and what maybe you can do if you're somewhere where it's not really worth shipping them, or you can't sell them in any other way. So yes, good. Okay, well, thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.